Board will be in order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Quorum call.
Director Black?
Here.
Director Kreutz?
Here.
Director Dakotas?
Here.
Director Heath?
Excused.
Director Marian? Here. Director Moses?
Here.
Director
Here.
Meserve? Here. Director Sargent?
Here.
Director Silvestri? Here. Director Welch?
Here.
Chairman Carlo?
Present.
Mr. Nobile?
Here.
Ms. Hall? Here. You have 10 members present and 1 excused.
10 directors present and 1 director excused. A quorum is present. Director Welch?
Move that we accept the agenda.
Director Welch moves to accept the agenda. Is there a second? Director Sargent? Is the board ready for the question? All those in favor? All those opposed? 10 directors voting in the affirmative and none in the negative. The motion prevails and the agenda is accepted. Director Welch?
Move that we approve the minutes.
Director Welch moves to approve the minutes of the last meeting. Is there a second? Director Sargent? Is the board ready for the question? All those in favor? All those opposed? 10 directors voting in the affirmative and none in the negative. The motion prevails and the minutes are approved. The chair inquires if there are any members of the public who wish to address the board. Seeing none. Director Welch.
Move that we approve the consent agenda.
Director Welch moves to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second? Director Black, pending question is acceptance of the consent agenda. Is the board ready for the question? All those in favor? All those opposed? 10 directors voting in the affirmative and none in the negative. The motion prevails and the consent calendar is approved. Is there objection to taking a series of matters out of order? Seeing no objection, the chair will turn director's attention to item 12, presentation at Bonnie Eagle High School Student Safety and Accountability. The chair recognizes the superintendent.
Good evening. I would like to in turn recognize the high school administrative team to do a brief presentation on student safety and accountability. So Principal Finn, if you'd like to take it from here.
Good evening, everybody. With me this evening is Assistant Principal Selena Levitt and Dean of Students Lindsay Pendleton. And as Superintendent Gleason said, we'll be discussing with you a few things tonight around safety and accountability. Specifically, we're going to talk to you about the Smart Pass system at the high school, a new system that we implemented this school year. Going to give you an update about door security and cameras, the decreased number of incidents at the high school last year to this year, and just a little bit of additional information about the new build program.
So with our Smart Pass system, these are just a few of the wonderful features that we've been able to utilize to increase safety at Bonnie Eagle High School. We're able to restrict number of passes within a day for a specific student. So if we're seeing recurring patterns from the data that we're able to pull, we're able to just restrict if how many they're able to get each period. We do have encounter prevention to prevent students from using passes at the same time. This is for any no contact contracts we have, or just any, again, recurring issues that do come up. This is a great way to continue that safety piece. Max capacity set for different locations. So as an example, every bathroom only has 4 passes. Most of our bathrooms have 4 stalls. So this has helped us prevent just multiple students using the same bathroom. And then we also are able to just review that specific data for students. This allows us to further address other attendance issues and help create plans to help the students meet their educational needs.
1 minute. Lindsay, before you go, could you just remind the board, like, what Smart Pass is? I think they globally know what it is, but maybe just a little bit of high-level detail
Yeah.
on what it is.
Yep, Smart Pass is just an electronic hall pass system. So each classroom teacher is able to use like a kiosk, so their iPads, and students are able to just go up, create the pass of where they're going to, and it's preset to the closest location. They're able to see if they're in a waiting queue, so if there are over 4 or more than 4 people in a bathroom, then they're just prompted to wait. Teachers are able to override that. It just kind of gives them like a cue of like, okay, you kind of need to pay attention to see what's really going on in that bathroom, or just make sure that students are coming back. They're also students, it is student driven, so like they're expected to make the pass and end the passes. And it just helps us, like, after we're able to go and see all the data for every single day, like if we do know of an incident that happened, not just the cameras, but we can pull up the passes to see if those students had passes at that time. And it's helped us immensely in the office just to be able to hold students accountable and continue to look at that data.
Thanks.
And just add a little extra piece to that, just a change from last year to this year. Whenever I have anybody in my office, I'll always throw up different camera angles just to, I don't want to say just to prove, but for lack of a better phrase, just to prove how much, how empty the halls are, which is exactly what we're looking for. I mean, people, when we do our surveys every year, we get feedback about, students feeling uncomfortable about going to the bathrooms. And as Lindsay pointed out, we don't have anywhere near the number of people hanging out in the restrooms as compared to just a year ago. So having fewer students out and about and unaccounted for in the hallways and using the restrooms or going elsewhere just because they want to, that's been cleaned up quite a bit because of this system.
Would it be better to save questions for the end? I know you only have a couple of topics. Is that okay or do you want to ask them as they come up?
At the end would be great.
Okay, so if board members have questions, maybe jot them down and we'll come back to them.
All right, we also wanted to bring the focus back on our door alarms, and we've had some upgrades to cameras. So a couple years ago, the alarms were placed on all the major entrances and exits, but just over February break, they were also put in the back of the auditorium and the back of the locker rooms and the shop doors, like the less used doors, but we are getting to the point where we're getting all of our doors completely alarmed. They were always locked, but the alarm definitely helps. We also have some really great cameras that are 360 degrees. So right in the T area, we can decide, do I want to look this way? Do I want to look that way? So the high-tech cameras that Scott has been upgrading for us is really great and a lot more details. So it's a lot easier to see things. And we wanted to point out some of our incident data. We only pulled the out-of-school and the in-school suspension data for last year to this point in the year last year to this point in the year this year. Quite a decrease. Out-of-school suspensions last year, we had 145, and there's 104 so far this year. Last year for in-school suspensions was 258, and we're at 124. At this point this year. So we really, that hall pass system, we feel like is a big help for us.
And the last part that we wanted to give you folks an update on is the build program. And the build program is housed over at Frank Jewett and the lower level of Frank Jewett. And it caters towards a small population of students who struggle to access their education at Bonnie Eagle High School for a variety of reasons. And this program has allowed them to increase their level of engagement and achievement, so we're very excited about that. Students have remained in school and have engaged in the curriculum. They have participated in community service, work-study programs, enrichment activities with the Learning Center, TLC, and mental health check-ins. And as a combined group, just a little fun fact, these students have earned 36 credits, the first half of the school year, first 2 quarters, whereas last year at the same time, students had earned a combined 17 credits. So we do know that the idea that one size does not fit all is so true. And we have an opportunity for students to earn their Bonnie Eagle diploma and to have success in a program where they feel they belong. And I want to thank the board for your support for that. And now we'll open it up to any questions the board may have.
Do you have any feedback from the students for how the Smart Pass system's working at this point, whether, actually gathered or just kind of anecdotal?
I would say when I've met with students and I pulled their data, I think it is like a realization, like, oh, okay, like people are checking in on me, people are aware of like where I'm going, but it's also helped a lot of students in times of, conflict or anything like that. We're able to support them in other ways. Like if we do go over like a no contact contract where there has been like multiple incidents with 2 students and we have that in our contract, I think it gives them like a feeling of relief. Like, okay, I know when I make a pass, the student's also not going to be out. I don't have to have this recurring problem. I think that's helped. And again, just being able to review the data. We have hall sweeps as a duty, and they are walking around with the Smart Pass, so there is teacher buy-in, which I think has also been really helpful. And I think it also like takes away that conflict in the hallway of being like, where are you supposed to be? It's just like, hey, don't see your hall pass. Like, how can I help you? I feel like it just has helped that a little bit.
And also with the Smart Pass, as the teachers are doing their duties out and about, they're able to see a picture of the student that's associated with that pass. I mean, this is only my second year. I still don't know all the faces, all the kids, and it's so nice to see that. Oh yeah, Paul, there you are right there. You're not Paul. So that's good.
A couple of questions. So to that point, so a teacher in the hallway or your rovers or hall sweeps, they have to carry a laptop with them, or is it on their phones?
iPad,
On their iPad?
they carry their.
And does the, in this instance here, they can log out for multiple things. You were talking about bathrooms. I assume that also refers to, I'm going to the clinic, I'm going to guidance, I'm going to social work, I'm going to get a drink or whatever it might be. So that's all in the system that they sign out for?
Yeah, and it's actually like, so like where they are in the day, it takes our schedule. So if that student is in room 220, it says where it's coming from. And also if I find that student in the hall and I say, hey, you don't have a pass where you're supposed to be, I can write them a skipping pass, and if I pull up their name, it will put the room, and it gives them 5 minutes to get back is kind of the prompt that we've been giving them.
And do you have take a walk break pass?
We do, and in that system, you can even say which students can see that. So we've gone through the IEPs and the students that are in programs that are allowed to have walk breaks, and we've turned it on just for those students.
With a designated area, not the whole campus.
So if I'm walking down the hallway from the second floor to the first floor, or to the cafeteria, and I see Johnny coming up the hallway, but I don't have my iPad with me because I don't need it for wherever I'm going, there's no way for me to check,
True.
right? So really, it's incumbent that, I mean, you have the rovers, or your hall sweep, we used to call them rovers.
Right.
And you guys, but it's hard for me to believe that anytime a teacher leaves their space, that they're carrying a laptop with them. So it still opens it up for a kid to say, oh, I have a Smart Pass.
And I feel like that's like where we just come in and are just like, oh, well, let me walk with you if I'm not sure, if I have a little suspicion.
Right. Well, I mean, I don't have any objections at all. The pass, there's never, ever, ever, ever been a hall pass system that works 100% of the time. It's just an interesting, I think it gives you lots of data out of the technology if you can get people to use it.
When you talk to a student and they're like, I didn't realize how much I spend out of class.
Well, that's another question. What happens when Johnny says, I'm going to the bathroom, and he's gone 45 minutes?
It logs it. And sometimes there are students who forgot to end their pass when they
Yes.
got back to the room. That's actually pretty common. Our sweeps are doing a really good job this semester, and they're actually kind of going around to rooms. And they're like, oh, is Aiden back in class? Okay, I'm going to end that pass.
And-
So we're trying to get more accurate data by getting, when the students are back, getting their
And
passes
as
ended.
you continue to deploy the system and collect the data, it's interesting, it comes back to the expectations and the follow-up by the classroom teacher. If Johnny's out of the classroom for 45 minutes, he simply walks in and checks in, and the teacher just keeps on going and doesn't get addressed, and that's going to happen over and over and over again. I found using a similar system that was one of the biggest holes in it. The kid is, you know, kids, if they can get away with it, they get away with it. They have 80 million excuses of why they had to go to the bathroom and then walk down to Lowe's and back, or whatever it might be, and be out 40 minutes, right? But if the teacher doesn't seem to follow up, as opposed to say, you've got 5 minutes, because that can add up for kids over time instructionally, particularly kids that tend to be more at risk. So, interesting. Thank you.
Dr. Kreitz.
I think this is all great. I just want to say that my high schooler has reported that things are very boring at the school and there's hardly any incidents, and he thinks it's not drama-free and is very disappointed, so keep up the good work.
I just wondered if Boston or Hannah had any thoughts on SmartPass and how it's worked for you, or if you have any observations you wanted to add.
I don't see any outstanding problems with it. I think it's been pretty successful. I think the teachers' sweeps have been doing a pretty fantastic job. And like you said, this semester, I've noticed a lot more people checking on the late passes if they forgot to end them. And for safety, you know, I've heard of things like the fire drills or whatever. They can look on that, see where they are if they weren't in their attendance or whatever. So, you know, I think it's all beneficial around.
Yeah, I would say it's beneficial. I do think it's circumstantial to the student, and certain teachers know certain students that don't exactly need to be tracked everywhere they go because they are trusted to go to the bathroom. But I have noticed a huge decrease of people in the bathroom between classes. And there's always a line between classes because no one wants to go during class anymore because it's just a hassle to make a pass and do all that. But when you do go during class, it's a noticeable difference from a couple years ago of the amount of people in there. Because usually now, thankfully, there's no one. So, yeah, it has worked.
And I just wanted to add on your behavior, your incident reports. You said that was year to year, right? Equivalent. That wasn't the end of the year.
It wasn't the
Same
end of the
point in the
year.
year. That's what I thought. And I just want to comment on how remarkable that is. That is significant, right? So congratulations with the combination of things, I'm sure, and efforts by your team and the teachers and students. And, you know, Hannah's comment about things being a hassle. Sometimes that's what it takes to curb some of the problems in the bathrooms and things, to make things a little bit of a hassle. But good work.
On the door security, nearly all doors have alarm systems with cameras nearby. Nearly suggests that several do not.
I think the back of the gym might be still there. Like there's only a couple.
And other doors alarmed.
Yes, they've all been locked, but the audible alarm is what is very loud. And
All right, so any given door, a kid pushes it open, it's going to go off.
Yes.
And the only other comment I have regarding the in-school and out-of-school suspension, it looks like a lot of different improvements there in terms of being able to, I think all of those kinds of things helps manage the behavior in the school and less likely the need to have to remove kids.
As you know, it's a great tool to have in the toolbox. I mean, it never made sense to me, a kid skipped school for 3 days, but we're gonna suspend him for 5. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
There needs to be an accountability piece, and so giving them a structured in-school suspension environment where it's not just I'm just gonna go hang out and eat popcorn for the day, you know, I mean, and you don't have kids that want to go to ISS. But it's a neat tool, and sometimes I'll have a kid that will have students that will just, they'd rather go home. And so that's why you get the parent on the phone and say, hey, I'm not suspending your kid out of school, but they're refusing to go to ISS. Want to talk to them?
Right.
Next thing you know, they're out in ISS. So thank you, parents.
Any further questions? I'm not seeing any further questions, so thank you very much for your presentation. Very impressive facts and figures, and we wish you continued success.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Chair will direct members' attentions back to item 8, report from the chairman. June 6, 2025 will be the high school graduation. You are all welcome and encouraged to attend. It will be at 6 o'clock in the afternoon at the Cross Civic Center in Portland. Last Friday at around 11 o'clock in the morning, you all should have received an email from me detailing the approved budget calendar, and I'm just going to go through that for your awareness and for members of the public awarenesses as well. The superintendent has some additional time to report his recommended budget to the school board. The Committee on Finance Facilities will meet in a special meeting on April 3rd at 3 p.m. to review that recommended budget. And that will be, the budget will be the only item on that meeting's agenda. The Board of Directors will meet at our next regular meeting on April 7th to conduct a high-level overview of the budget items, get some rationale for the merits of those items, and the Finance Committee will meet again on April 10th. The board will meet in special sessions on April 28th, 29th, and 30th to have some structured conversation on the budget. We haven't quite determined what the structure of that conversation will be, but we're open to feedback on what will be helpful for you as board members in going through this pretty extensive document. We want this to be a process that works for everybody, and you can get the information that you need to make an informed decision. So if you have any questions or requests for information, please don't hesitate to contact me, the superintendent, or our business manager to submit those requests for information. The budget meeting will occur on May 15th at the high school at 6 o'clock in the afternoon. Again, that's May 15th at 6 p.m. at the high school. And the budget referendum will be on June 10th, Tuesday, June 10th. Are there any questions regarding my report? Item 9, report from the superintendent. The chair recognizes the superintendent.
Good evening. The first item I have to report is that Bonnie Eagle Middle School held a career fair. I don't have the exact date actually written down, but it was recently, and I did attend, and it was a very well-done event, something that hadn't been done in some time at the middle school. They have done things like this at the high school, but Elizabeth Tharp, who's the career and life readiness teacher, and Catherine Slocheski, one of the school counselors, put a lot of effort into planning this. They had over 30 vendors and activities for students to make it an interactive experience. They had like a bingo game, and kids had to get their bingo cards signed. There were colleges present, local businesses, small businesses, specifically trade-oriented jobs. There was a good diverse group of tables set up, and I had spent a good chunk of my career as a middle school educator, and I know how hard it is to gain the attention of middle school students. And I have to say, walking around on a Friday, I think it was a Friday afternoon, they were all still quite engaged even at 1:30 when I got there, and it was near the end. So they clearly found some kind of magic to engage the kids. So I just wanted to congratulate the middle school on that effort, and I'm sure it's something that they'll look to continue to do. And I think it's great to give kids, it's different, right? The high school career fairs that they do in future options fairs, it's more specific, and at that point kids might have more of an idea. This was a nice, just diverse group of options for kids to consider when they're in 7th and 8th grade. So well done by that group. Another positive happening, we have a scholarship recipient, and the MIAAA scholarship. Lauren Walker was awarded one of these honors. So that's the Maine Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association, so basically the Athletic Directors Association. They had a couple of these, I don't know how many they give out, but because of her exemplary record of scholastic excellence and performance in athletics and service to her community, she was awarded a $500 scholarship that will be payable after the first semester. So when she starts her second semester of college, our athletic director will speak about her briefly at an upcoming luncheon on April 2nd, and then Lauren will be asked to read her essay that she had to write to enter. So congratulations to Lauren. That's a very nice honor, and it's the whole combination of athletics and community service and, of course, scholastic aptitude. So congratulations. We had our final budget advisory meeting last week. And I want to thank all the members of that committee for their time and input. We spent a series of meetings looking at the budget process and reviewing the baseline budget and what goes into the budget. And the conversation more recently had turned to very sort of specific talk. And it occurred to Dawn and I both that that's really the conversation we need to be having with this body. And it's important to get the input of those community members. But that is one of the goals that we have when we're presenting the budget this year, is to engage folks in those conversations. We definitely learned some people's feelings about some of the specifics, but and also they left with a resolution of a number they felt the community could support. We reminded them that it is ultimately still the superintendent's budget at this point, and that they're making that recommendation. And it was very helpful and insightful for Dawn and I to get that information, but we still have some work to do before we turn it over to the Finance and Facilities Committee on April 3rd. So we look forward to that process playing out, and I just want to echo what the chair had said about any things that's on your mind in advance of that conversation, questions about particular things that you might have, things that would be helpful for you to know. We don't want to have contrived activities to kind of draw it out of you, but definitely want to have some open conversation about different choices that need to be made in the district, because we recognize that there's a balance between a budget that supports our students and a budget that the community can afford in a time when it's getting challenging. And I know last year, we talked about the price of everything is going up, but that's not just true for schools, right? We know that's true for every household in our district. So how do we balance those competing interests? So I look forward to that conversation. I have a couple of retirements. Debbie McCarthy, grade 3 teacher at Hollis Elementary, is retiring at the end of the school year. Yes, Boston, it's true. I just want to, give my congratulations to Mrs. McCarthy. She's one of the first people that I interacted with when I was principal at Hollis, and had the pleasure of working with her for a number of years. And she's the kind of teacher that kids come back. They'll be, 25 years old, and they come back to visit because of the relationships that she made with them. She's very, very student focused. So what she'd be saying right now is, don't talk about me like I'm dead. She still is finishing the year, and we're gonna sign her up on the sub list for next year. So yes, Mrs. McCarthy, I know that you have not passed away. You're just retiring, and she deserves that. She has grandchildren and a lot to do. And then Terry Jewell, another person who's worked for us for a long time, lately has been a 3-day-a-week nurse at Edna Libby, is retiring at the end of the school year. She had told us for a couple of years in a row she was retiring, but this is the first time I think she's actually turned the paper in. So I also wish Terry the best in her retirement. And then Jessie Woodman, who is the other half of the nurse tandem at Edna Libby, had been working 2 days a week, and she will be resigning at the end of the school year. Not retiring. Jessie is not retiring, but she is resigning. I think she has other professional pursuits. And that will allow us to have fill that with one nurse, which is ideal. They've done a great job making the split nurse thing work, but that will allow us to have just one nurse at Edna Libby moving forward. Then I have one field trip to report. The Model UN students will be traveling to USM on May 14th and returning on May 16th, and they will be participating in the Maine Model UN National Conference. And that is my report for this evening.
Are there any questions for the superintendent? Item 10, report from the student members. The chair recognizes the student members for the purpose of providing a report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're going to keep it short and sweet tonight. This quarter 3 ends on Friday, March 28th. Spring conferences will be held on Thursday, March 20th from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. The World Language Society will be holding an international night to showcase the cultural diversity among exchange students at the high school. This will be held on March 25th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. The Drama Club had a successful weekend at the Regional One Act competition with special awards for Walter Alexis, Hannah Hall, and an all-cast award for Brian Dunphy. And finally, the winter semi-formal dance will be held this Saturday, March 22nd at 7 to 9:30 p.m. And at HB Emory, spring conferences are to be held on March 25th and March 27th. That'll be all.
Are there any questions for the student members? All right. Reports from committees. Dr. Kreutz.
Thank you. I apologize to the board. I was thrown off last meetings. We had back-to-back curriculum meetings with just a quick board meeting in between, and I thought I had already reported out on this, but I had not, so I will now. We had a curriculum meeting on February 11th. The entire committee was present, along with the curriculum team. We did not have our student representative for that evening. We called the meeting to order at 6 and approved the minutes from the January 28th. Again, it was very quick in between the two meetings, approved those minutes, and we had no public comment. We had just a couple of items on the agenda. One was the health and PE standards, which you guys had received all of that information in your packet last meeting, and we did approve it, but just for the sake of the public, I will cover the high level. So the health standards, Bonnie Eagle was already pretty aligned with the state standards, which was great. Some of the health changes was there's a new focus on personal responsibility, including that in the health curriculum, as well as finding valid resources when they are looking for information. The 6 to 12 group, they found that they're going to be better able to fit the curriculum in. They're getting deeper instead of having to check as many boxes. So rather than just breezing through a ton of stuff, they're actually able to dig in a little deeper. And then the K-5 is better aligned with 6 to 12. It's a little different with K through 5. We are teaching, but the kids are not evaluated. And the way that it is presented in K through 5, there's no specific health team, so it gets incorporated in other lessons with PE, with counselors, with nurses, and just in collaboration with classroom time. And then at the middle school, we are working to better align with state standard. We're supposed to have middle schools to have 2 years of health education, and so they are making it a standard so that health will always be taught in 7th grade, and then 6th and 8th will be alternating depending on the schedule. So with the trimesters at the middle school, it can be challenging to get the kids mixed in through all the different allied arts through their 3 years. And so by standardizing 7th grade, that kind of takes that piece off the table with the confusion. The PE standards are not significantly different. A lot of the change is really focusing on health and not fitness per se, so it's more about giving the kids the information that they need to have overall health and well-being, commitment to general fitness, setting a goal and then achieving it. So it's not how many sit-ups can you achieve to get an A, it's what is your initial results, and then what is your goal and how can you improve it. And it's less about the specific activities and sort of the intentions behind it. We then talked about Level All. So this is at the high school. It is a career and financial literacy program. So it's a free program. It's funded by a bunch of national corporations, and we got the list. It was a real mix. So no political ties, no advertisements. It was just, corporations that are just interested in giving kids resources to help them prepare for the greater world. So the counselors are going to be using this. It's going to be interesting. The counselors and student service lessons will be developed, and then it will be executed by the sync teachers. So in the high school, the kids have a sync class once a week, and so this is a tool that they'll be able to use in those sync classes. And it's about it's got college and career planning. It has information about financial literacy. This is not a substitute for Naviance. It's going to be used in cooperation with Naviance. Naviance is much more integrated with the college college application process. But one of the downsides of Naviance is that it is very college focused. That's kind of its end goal, and we know that that's not applicable for all of our kids. And so this Level All program is great because it opens up more information for kids that maybe college isn't great for them. So it sounds like it's a great program, and we're looking forward to hearing the results. Oh, I will say the kids do have to log in, and so everything is tracked. This isn't just, a free-for-all website, and so there are, specific lessons that can be assigned. We'll be able to see what's being used, so there will be data behind it, which is always great and always something the curriculum team is interested in hearing about. Our last main item was about Zello. So we had talked about Zello last year. That starts with an X. It is a career exploration tool. This was at the middle school level. So it was implemented last year. We didn't have a ton of time to start to get used to it. And then the teacher that had brought it forward has moved on. And so we're kind of starting anew with it. The cost is relatively low. It's only $3,000 a year only. But they're still exploring if it's going to be worth it. It hasn't been particularly utilized this year. So the principal will decide, and the principal team, administrative team will decide if they're going to keep using it. The impression that we got was that we're going to give it through this year, maybe next year, and then decide if it's really of value. And if it's not, we'll just say no thank you and not continue with it. We wrapped up with some other business. We mostly just got a schedule of some events that were coming up, things that are still applicable. We've got March 27th, the Bonnie Eagle High School Band and Chorus is going to be doing performances for the fourth graders at the high school to get them excited about our music program and see what's possible. On the 2nd, the 40th Annual District Writing Contest Writers' Tea will be happening at the middle school. I believe the superintendent told us about that last meeting, but it's going to be a little different, more of a tea for the kids and something kind of like a cool hipster cafe for the older kids because they just don't really want to sit there with kindergartners and drink iced tea. And then the April 14th District Art Night will be put on, which is always a great show. Our next meeting is going to be April 15th, and we adjourned at 7:06.
Thank you for that report. Are there any questions for the curriculum committee? Are there any further reports from committees? Director Jacotis.
Thank you. The Policy and Rules Committee met on March 3rd, and we came to order at 4:35. There was no public comment. I made a motion. We needed to elect a chair and a vice chair because we have now become the Policy and Rules Committee. So that election took place. I'm continuing as chair, and Cynthia Meserve is now the vice chair of the Policy and Rules Committee. We went into executive session to evaluate the superintendent who was present during the process with us. The policies that we reviewed are coming forward as FYIs. There were no changes made to these policies. I'll just go through them. IC is school calendar. ID is school day. JJE, student fundraising activities. And JJER, solicitations and fundraising activities. They were accepted it voted upon unanimously yes, and just come forward that way. Another, one issue that came up, just part of the impact of having the rules and policy committees joined, the question was asked about if the B policies, which are now in the rules, come up for changes from MSMA, what do we do? It's a procedural issue, and we discussed it, and we will just review them as usual in our way the policy committee looks at all policies, and that will ease that process. We adjourned at 5:24.
Thank you for that report.
You're
Are there
welcome.
any questions for the committee? Are there any further reports from committees? Dr. Moran.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Finance Facilities Committee met at 4 o'clock on March the 13th. The full committee was there, including our student representative. There were no public comments. We approved the minutes of the previous meeting. We reviewed the accounts payable and payroll warrant summaries, and we signed those and passed them off. We reviewed the top 25 expenditures. And Mrs. Pooler went over the interim financial reports and the dashboard for income and expenses. Everything is right where it should be. There were no surprises. We talked about the capital reserve balances and other fund balances. And we had a presentation from the technology department about a lease with Apple for our computers, and that's coming up later on in this agenda, so I won't go into that. We also had a discussion about capital reserves and funds for facilities. That also is coming up later in this agenda, so I won't go into that. We had a facilities update from Mr. Inglesby from around the district, repairs and maintenance and emergencies that might have come up that were repaired. Everything seems to be going along very nicely. We went into an executive session for some possible litigation and also to do the superintendent's summative evaluation. And we adjourned at 5 p.m. and there will be a special meeting April 3rd, as the chairman said, at 3 p.m. to talk only about the budget. Thank you.
Thank you for that report. Are there any questions for the committee? Are there any further reports from committees? We don't think so. All right. Report of the Committee on Policy and Rules, item 13.1, second reading and adoption of Resolution 22, amending Policy Code BG. Is there any objection to waiving the reading? Seeing no objection, Chair recognizes Director Dakotas.
Thank you. Yes, there's been no more input to the committee, so I would make a motion that we adopt the policy BG as presented to the board.
Director Dakotas moves to adopt Resolution 22. Is there a second? Director Kreutz? Is the board ready for the question? All those in favor? All those opposed? 10 directors voting in the affirmative and none in the negative. The motion prevails and the resolution is adopted. Item 14, report of the negotiation committee. 14.1, first reading of the following job descriptions. Is there any objection to waiving the reading? Seeing no objection, the resolutions will have been considered read once. Item 15, report of the Finance and Facilities Committee. Item 15.1A, Resolution 23 to authorize the lease purchase of new technology equipment in the principal amount of $913,912.45. Resolution 24 to authorize the expenditure of capital reserve funds in the amount of $671,333.93. Is there objection to waiving the reading? Seeing no objection, the resolutions will have been considered read. Are there any comments on the resolutions? All right, the board will be at ease for just a brief moment to consult. With regard to Resolution 23, is there any objection to suspending the rules to give this resolution a second reading at this time? Seeing no objection, the resolution will have been considered read twice under suspension of the rules. The chair recognizes Director Welch.
I move that we approve Resolution 23 to authorize the lease purchase of new technology equipment in the principal amount of $913,912.45.
Dr. Welch moves to adopt Resolution 23, a resolution to authorize the lease purchase of new technology equipment in the principal amount of $913,912.45. Is there a second? Dr. Marian? Is the board ready for the question? Director Dakotas.
Can you just indicate exactly what it is that they're purchasing?
The superintendent.
Our technology director's here if you'd like to come share. We thought the question could come up, and he's here with the answers.
I'm only here because Mrs. Pooler's in Florida. This is year 3 of our refresh. So this is our elementary refresh. So this will refresh our iPads for our students and our staff, as well as our laptops for our staff at the elementary level, and some audiovisual equipment that will be going into Buxton Center Elementary, as that is starting to age out since it's been there since the building's inception. Okay.
Thank you. Dr. Kreutz.
Oh, don't go anywhere. So
Tried to run.
knowing that, so a 3-year plan to do the refreshing, I know that technology ages out quickly. Once we get through this 3-year, does that kick off a new 3-year?
Yeah, I provided finance and facilities with my 4-year refresh cycle. So, I mean, I'll go over it real quick. So year 1, which we did 2 years ago, or it was high school. This year was middle school. Next year is elementary. Pause for a year and then start over.
Start over, yeah.
Okay?
That makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any further questions? All right. Just so I can, the new rules require that each resolution before it's adopted receives 2 readings, but we suspended that rule tonight so that we could adopt this resolution on the basis that there's a time-sensitive nature to this. We want to take advantage on a low interest rate. So that's why we're moving forward with adopting the resolution tonight. So unless there's any further debate, then we can proceed to the vote. All right, all those in favor? All those opposed? 10 directors voting in the affirmative and none in the negative. Motion prevails and the resolution is adopted. Item 16, new business. Chair inquires if there's any new business. Seeing. We are, so on 15-1B, that resolution was read a second time, but since it's at first reading, it will be adopted at the next meeting of the board.
Okay. No rush. I know the first one was time critical, but I know the second one was too.
Sorry, yes, we have a little procedural snafu. The technology expenditure was time sensitive because of the rate. I have double checked with Carl, and this, though it needs to be approved by the board to expend it, it is not as time sensitive as the technology. Yeah, those are things that he's already starting to plan for, but he just doesn't need to expend any funds until we get this approval at the next meeting. It can wait the two weeks until the next meeting, but you will see it on the next agenda for second reading. I apologize.
I thought they were both time critical. We wanted to get it done.
Yes, I understand, and I apologize for any confusion. I think we just confirmed the 2 weeks shouldn't make all the difference, though.
Director Meserve?
I just wanted to share how well the Bonnie Eagle robotics team is competing in. It's really impressive to see, and I hope if they make it further, we're able to support more of that. It's very nice to see the camaraderie, the fun, the excitement. It's just fun.
Thank you. All right, I didn't see any new business, so we'll proceed to item 17, notification of scheduled meetings. On Monday, April 7th, 2025, the Policy Committee will meet at 4:30 in the afternoon in the Central Office Conference Room, in the Central Office Library. And on Monday, April 7th, the same day, at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, the Board of Directors will meet in the Central Office Conference Room. The Chair inquires if there are any notices of further meetings.
April 3rd, we mentioned it, but the April 3rd Finance and Facilities meeting, which was added very recently.
Okay, so the Finance and Facilities Committee will meet on April 3rd at 3 o'clock in the afternoon here in the Central Office Conference Room.
And also on the 10th.
And also on the 10th. That's right. Okay. Seeing no further meeting notices, Director Welch.
Move that we adjourn.
Director Welch moves to adjourn. Is there a second? Director Sargent. Is the board ready for the question? All those in favor? All those opposed? 10 directors voting in the affirmative and none in the negative. Motion prevails and the board stands adjourned until Monday, April 7th, 2025 at 6 o'clock in the afternoon.